Hello. Remember a while back we looked at the Lowestoft Gullwing Bridge? It's based on the Scherzer rolling lift bridge concept, and here in Lincolnshire we find a fantastic example of such a bridge that's nearly 110 years old. It was one of the first to be built in England, and at the time it was the longest and heaviest bridge of its type in Europe, and it was the first ever to feature a three-girder construction, and now it's just sat here, not really doing a lot. Known as the King George V Bridge, or more commonly Keadby Bridge, it was constructed between 1912 and 1916 by the Great Central Railway as a replacement for a swing bridge that occupied a site only 50 yards to the south from 1864. It carries both the double-track railway and road over the River Trent, but had the railway company had their way, the road wouldn't have come into it. In order for the bridge to feature both, of course, would have cost more, and the railway company were having none of it, insisting that the local council chip in the amount required to build the road component of the bridge. In the end, I don't think they quite got their way, but an agreement was reached clearly, and the bridge was constructed as a road and rail bridge. The bridge is around 550 feet long and is made up of 3 spans, the longest of which is 163 foot, and it's this longer span that lifts up to allow larger ships to pass underneath. As mentioned, it's a Scherzer rolling lift bridge, a design that was based around a bascule bridge, but with some significant differences. Rather than use a series of gears, ropes, pulleys and mechanisms to lift the bridge deck, Scherzer's design does away with all of that and pivots the bridge deck on a roller using a counterbalance weight to move it. You don't need any clever, complicated lifting mechanisms, it reduces the friction and force exerted, and it would usually lower and raise quicker than the equivalent ordinary bascule bridge. In this case, it could lift its 3,500 ton deck in 40 seconds. To power the bridge, initially they used a huge storage battery fed by petrol-driven generators, which would have all been housed in a small building underneath the eastern bridge approach, although later the bridge would be connected up to the mains electricity supply, doing away with the need for petrol generators altogether. Mounted on the side of the bridge was a control room where the bridge operator could raise and lower the bridge accordingly. Now, I know some of you will be wondering, are we going to see some cool footage of the bridge raising and lowering? And sadly, no, we're not. The bridge hasn't been raised since 1956. In 1960, some modifications were made to the bridge by way of increasing the vehicle headroom and widening the bridge, and at the same time the generator building and the bridge control room was removed. Interestingly, widening the road carriageway meant that the footpath that used to run across the bridge deck had to be removed, and it was replaced by a new footpath that was bolted onto the exterior of the bridge. That's 1960s road planners for you. But in any case, it was during all of these modification works that the bridge deck was fixed in position, never to be raised again. It's not clear exactly as to why the bridge was fixed in position, but it's most likely for 2 reasons. First, the amount of large boat traffic on this part of the river by the 1960s would have been little to non-existent, meaning there's no reason to raise the bridge. And second, the bridge mechanism required a level of maintenance that in later years would have been lacking, and it started to prove unreliable, getting stuck in the open position for hours at a time on the odd occasion that it did raise up. This impacted both road and rail traffic, and in severe cases trains would have to be turned around and rerouted another way. This was all too much of a ball ache, so they solved the problem by permanently fixing the bridge in position. Tough shit if you're a boat. Therefore, what we've got is an impressive 110-year-old rolling lift bridge that doesn't do a lot of rolling, but don't forget it was one of the first in England, the longest and heaviest in Europe, and the first ever to utilise a 3-girder construction. Certainly it does still bridge you over the River Trent, but maybe its main purpose is to now serve as a reminder of the amazing skill and engineering that went into creating these fantastic heavyweight structures. Thanks for watching.